All right, welcome everyone to Digital Experience Sprint Planning for the week of starting, or for the cycle starting May 10th today. We're going to be working towards trying to get some event pages going. So I'll go first. First items I'm going to be working on is the pricing page. Basically, we had a successful test last cycle, and so I'm going to be going in and cleaning up and setting it as the control. And other than that, I'll be working towards outlining the final touches on our OKR planning and doing some triage. There were some issues with basically handoff of triage, and so we need to get started and go through the backlog of triage and things like that. So yeah. And then also some analyst page updates as well. And then looks like next up is Lauren.
All right, so for this iteration, we have a follow-up of the event template for slippers to do. And so I'm going to work on patching up our copy block and our event CTA so they all align on the same grid. And then I'm going to shift over to actually building the components in the www repo. And so I'll work on shipping the copy and image block, the CTA event block cards, and the connect block. We'll get those all patched up in www. And then I have a point for booting up with the GitLab code base and firing that up on my machine. And that's part of the OKR working towards adding the footer to the product. Then we have a blog categories SEO error. So I added pagination to our blog category pages. And there's an SEO error that occurs where they're using the same description for every tabbed page. So I'll go and fix that. And then I had them turn on the feature flag for Epic boards for inbound marketing. So I'm going to get in there, try it out, and provide some feedback on that because Epic boards could be really cool. Over to Tina.
Thanks. So I'm going to prioritize project planning for cross-functional support initiatives OKR. So specifically, I'll be focusing on information gathering for this iteration for the comparison, localization, and partner portions of the Epic so that I can kind of get caught up and start collecting, reviewing, and assigning issues and creating epics. I've also set some time aside to support with commit in the events page CMS. I'm going to work with Javi to get an issue started to house our efforts to improve our collaboration, our internal team collaboration, so that we can keep that conversation going. And lastly, I'm gonna update the handbook to include our Figma file handoff process. And that's it for me for this iteration. Tyler.
Yeah, I've got some wrap up. I had sort of like poked into a few small like SEO things with our with our sitemap and some localization attributes, and so I just picked up those issues from the unassigned column today so that I could close them out this iteration. But beyond that, the rest of my capacity is just event template. Just keeping on. Looked at it. I think we might be able to close out step 2.5 and 3. Like heads down this iteration. We might still be at risk on that third step coming up, even with all my available time going there. So yeah, Laura, you're up next.
Thanks. Yeah, I set aside some time to do a bit of OKR planning for the inquiry to free trial OKR. Jess has already done a lot of investigating and adding tickets to that OKR. I just want to look at some of the engineering lift for that. I also grabbed one of the unassigned pieces, which was the partners page templates, a few fixes for that, which should be fairly small. And then I also want to keep my head down and do some events template work. So I grabbed a few of those blocks, the countdown block, the announcement block, and the partner block. So I'll be doing those and grabbing more if I have time. And next is Javi.
Hello. Due to popular demand before this call, there was a desire and want for there to be an engineering navigation epic. So I went ahead and created one as this call was happening. In terms of like the work that I'm doing this iteration with that, there's some stuff with the styling that still needs to be worked on, specifically the drop-down navigation for CSS at the desktop query. This will lead to like having to modify slightly how like the data is being brought in from that, because we have like the segmentation across different sections. Yeah, okay. This will lead us to work with Slippers only layouts in the www repo, and then eventually merging this into the repo. I'm going to try to see if we can just drop this in and see what happens. If this ends up not working out, I will probably have to consult Tyler in terms of like understanding how to use web component technology to get all of this stuff to work. That's like the navigation stuff. I put a scoping of 8 just because I anticipate this to take a lot of my effort. I have 1 point set down for handbook changes, specifically with collaborating with outside teams. Over the weekend, I was listening to this audiobook for a Mike Montero book for a book called Design is a Job. I think there's a lot of stuff in that I could just straight copy and pull and reference. In the sprint planning document, I have the PDF to the entire book if people are interested. I don't know if that's like legal, but whatever. It's there. I also wanted to have like something in terms of quarterly planning, because it seems like there's stuff that we do and we should say that we do them somewhere. So, and I had written that down in the retro, but I don't remember like what context that was in, but I just figured that I would throw that in there. I have 1 point for trying to get engineering work aligned closer to Figma foundations. I have a ton of work already done in this already, specifically like working with like the inset variables within Tailwind, which is like top, left, right. Right now, that's not aligned with like the way that we've spaced things now. I also added a point for, or not a point, but I also added a thing in there for getting SLP, what is it called? Container aligned with our grid. And I can link documentation to container within Tailwind, but like getting that Tailwind container utility to align with our own grids, I think is like a good thing for us to have, just because at least I've been using it and it's unfortunate when those two things don't align. So that's it for me. Up next is Jess.
Thanks, Andy. The first thing there for me is the next iteration of the pricing page, which is just kind of like a contact sales call out, and it's already started. We're just kind of awaiting copy. Should be a quick one. And then I'm going to put an asterisk on my next one. I'm hoping to do user research for the free trial sign-up forms, but there's some question about how to actually do that. So it could end up being the reverse, could end up doing doing the design first and then kind of researching on a prototype afterwards. So TBD, but one of those. And but my last thing is just, if I have time, I still need to do the research readout for the product/DevOps page, which I did, I think in March was the actual user research. It's just kind of when I get the time. So, and then Stephen, you're up next.
Yeah, my first one is my OKR planning, breaking out the 15 pages into issues so they're a bit more manageable, so it's not a huge mountain to climb. I say into spices. I'll correct that, not epic. I spelled that wrong. Excuse me. Yeah, so doing that, and then there's a issue open at the minute for inline link styling, so we're adding that to the repo, making sure that that's all good and reflected in Figma. And then my Q1 OKR still has some work in it, and I'm just seeing how that transfers over to Q2. So I have to do a bit of looking into that with Michael as well. And that's it for me.
So everyone, thanks for stopping by and listening to us plan. Good job, everyone. Have a good week or cycle later.